Hi, and welcome to Homo Dance, the channel on history and board games. Thanks everyone for being here for this a bit of an unusual chat, a panel about strategy in a Gest of Robin Hood. I decided to invite a few players from BGA that I handpicked based on their Elo scores. So I reached out to some players to see if they could join the stream and have a discussion about how to be good at playing this game. I think all of them are better players than I am, so I think their probably their tips and strategies are going to be quite interesting to hear. The way we're going to structure this is we're going to have a general discussion on balance and learning curves for both factions, and then we're going to specifically talk about each faction. So we're going to talk about the sheriff, then we're going to talk about Robin Hood, and then at the end we'll have a bit of an open conversation about where the game could go from there. Just for you to know, on the side, I have the stats from the last 1,000 plays on BGA. So we have a few numbers, and I think I will use some of those numbers maybe to ask some questions to our guests here to tell them what they think about the differences that you have between winners average and all players average on specific factions, just to get the feel about what is important. But before we start, I think it would be great to hear from our guests who they are, how they discovered the game, and how much they've played it. And I guess we're going to do in clockwise order. So we'll start with you, Daniel.
Hi, I'm Daniel. I'm late JDM on BGA. I didn't realize we were supposed to be using our internet names.
You don't. It's fine. You use whatever you want.
Yeah, I got into historical board games last year with the PAX series and then the coin series, and when sort of the coin / ICS series, the first coin game I played was Vijaya Nagara, which I still can't pronounce. And so when Gest came out, I picked it up, and I have played the physical copy once, and I have played it online 363 times.
That breaks my heart.
Yeah, so that's I think I'm on the show by sheer volume. I think that's my number one recommendation for
Daniel,
anyone.
we put so much love in the production, and you played it only once. Oh my god, you're I'm this close to just kick you out of this discussion. I'm so pissed off right now, but that's fine. Selwith, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm real name's David. I'm in the Bay Area in California, in US. So I've been playing board games since 2008, but kind of like Daniel, got into historical in the last 2 years. I really love CGs right now. I don't really like coin, but ICS, I really liked both entries so far. I'm really optimistic on all that. Yeah, and for me, maybe 5 or 6 plays in real life, and I play games online to kind of try to understand the strategy more, because you get more reps in versus you play physically once a year. So usually I try to learn it online, to learn the strategy online. And in this case, I kind of didn't stop winning for a while, but now I've stopped winning, so I've kind of lapsed a little bit. I played a few more times just to get ready for this stream, but yeah, I wrote a strategy article on Board Game Geek, and that's probably most of my tips, and they're probably outdated at this point. I think the meta has moved on.
Yeah, there is some quite interesting discussion that happened on BTG already, and you were part of most of them. So actually, thanks also for that for making those discussions pretty lively in the especially a few months ago. That was really great. How many plays do you have so far, you think, on BGA?
I would estimate maybe slightly less than 100. Maybe usually once I get the 100 plays badge, I stop playing. Definitely not as much as Daniel, but
yeah. But still, for 400 plays, you have a very decent elo. That's for sure. You didn't brute force it like Daniel.
So what I did, and with PAX Renaissance too, I got in when it was in alpha, so I got to eat all the new players, and then once they started becoming better, I left. So
Smart.
So I brute force the new players. I didn't.
Yeah. That's a smart way to look at it. And finally, we have KK Divac. So you're our last guest. Can you briefly introduce yourself and tell us how many times you've played it on BGA overall?
Hey, hear me right?
Yeah, you're perfect.
I discovered just the game used in BGA, and I have to say that I like it a lot. Was my first coin, like someone then. Sorry for my English, because it's hard for me to express talking. But that's it. I try to play. I can't say a lot, perhaps.
Yeah.
A lot of games, but well, it's it more or less.
And where are you from in Spain?
I'm from Salamanca.
Okay, great. If you struggle at some point and you want to speak half English, half Spanish, I can do the translation. Don't worry about it. Just feel relaxed. It's gonna be a fun chat. But yeah, so let's start maybe by discussing balance. There has been quite a lot of discussions regarding balance on BGG in the beginning, and we had competitive threads. Some of them saying that it was impossible to win with Robin Hood, some of them saying that it was impossible to win with the Sheriff. But most of the discussion were around Robin Hood. And originally, I think the statistics for the first place were when players were pretty experienced were like really close to 50-50, which is not surprising when people are learning the game and stuff like this. And if I'm looking now, we are looking at the last 1,000 games played. We are at 42-58 in favor of the Sheriff, obviously. But I wanted to have your thoughts regarding the balance and if you felt like maybe the balance changed slightly with experience, just having your overall feeling for it. And we can maybe start with you, Daniel, and if others you want to jump in and say something, you can just go ahead.
So I'm not a premium BGA user, so I don't have current access to my stats, but I had someone else pull them about a month ago, and I think I was at 85% win with Sheriff and about 60 with Robin Hood, which is a really significant divergence there. I don't necessarily think like it's impossible. It's like, obviously it's not impossible to win with Robin Hood. I don't think it's that significant of a balance issue. I think the game obviously, or from my perspective at least, favors the Sheriff. I think that's preserved at higher levels of play, but I don't necessarily think that's like a bad thing, really. I think narratively speaking, in a game about sort of an underdog, like trying to sort of fight the system, you want the sort of the non-system player to be a little bit weaker, because then the wins feel a little bit more triumphant. As a competitive game, I'm not sure. I think there are probably ways that tournaments can be structured better than they are on BGA to account for that. But again, that's sort of a separate question. I do think that, like earlier in playing against a friend of mine who's experienced in coin, we had a series of like 15 games that were we just swapped back and forth, and the Sheriff won every single one of them. I think my Robin Hood play has gotten a little bit better since then. I've figured out some other options, but I do think, yeah, it's easier to play as the Sheriff. It's more forgiving of mistakes, and I definitely enjoy playing as Robin Hood against newer players, though. I think it's a more rewarding experience. It's a little bit closer, and it's just it's sort of a good way to handicap myself, essentially.
Yeah, and I would say definitely when you're playing with a new player and you're introducing them to the game, I think it's always better to play Robin and have them play the Sheriff, because I think the Sheriff is more straightforward in what you need to do and how you need to do it. Whereas Robin Hood, you need to figure out how to make it work, because it's quite unusual. So that I think that makes sense. Regarding the tournament for competitive play, I think you raise a really good point. And Franz is actually working on something to make it so that when you play tournaments, so in a competitive mode, actually the game is played in 2 rounds.
Best of
and
2,
each, yeah, and you play the 2 rounds alternatively, and then you have a scoring that is based on the result that you have playing the Sheriff and playing Robin Hood, and based on this, you have a winner. But yeah, and actually that's really interesting. There is Aaron Chapa who's saying that the government wins about 12% times in Andean Abyss on Ready the Troops. Ready the Troops is another platform on which you can play some coin game. And in Andean Abyss, for those who don't know, there are 4 factions. So having one of the faction having 12% win rate is pretty brutal, you could say.
I
Which
think
is
that's
interesting.
complicated. I think for a 4-player game, it's complicated by the fact that I think, especially in multiplayer coin games, there's a lot of the balancing really requires table talk in a way that I don't think impacts Gest as much, or really at all. Shouldn't. And table talk is pretty difficult in async. So that's been I think at least partially the government's low win rate on RTT is probably down to difficulties with table talk, difficulties with coordinating.
Yeah. And I think but I'm not too surprised by this. But the thing that is funny about Andean Abyss is that I think the government is my preferred faction. So and it feels really good when you win. I would say that that's for sure. But yeah, so keeping the discussion on the balance, I'm gonna keep the having the clockwork system. So David, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm not convinced yet that there's a balance issue. For me, the stats on BGA and Rally Troops, it's always all players, but you actually need to look at the top 10% when they face off against each other. What happens? I wanted to do this for this, but I didn't have time for the stream. I'll try to do it later or in the next couple of days. But I mean, an example like Dune War for Arrakis, I did all the stats there, and there was a meme with Dune War for Arrakis that Harkonnen's more powerful, 60% win rate, and all that. But when you actually look at the top 10% players facing each other, it's like 50-50. So I'm not convinced that there's a balance issue despite the stats you mentioned, and I would dig in more. I'm a data scientist by trade too, so that's kind of my thing. But my own personal experience, I mean, for me, it's like similar win rate on both. When I play KKDVAC, I always lose no matter who I play. So yeah, but I do agree, new players, it is more intuitive for a Sheriff. The Sheriff will probably win more when it's new players involved. But between experienced players, I think some stats or maybe a couple of high-level tournaments, we'll find out more.
Yeah, you actually raised an interesting point, because when I was preparing this stream, I looked at, I think, the 10 best players on BGA, and I looked at their win rates on the game by faction. And actually, most of them had pretty similar win rates playing Robin or the Sheriff. I know that, Daniel, I think when we talked about it a while ago, you had a significant difference, but it wasn't something that I necessarily saw in other high-level players. Which I thought was quite interesting. And that's also why I asked BGA for the full data, because what I wanted to see is actually see what are the matchups and see if there is, if depending on the matchups, do we have a win rate for each faction that changes, or there significant variables that predict if you have a higher chance of winning depending on your elo, your opponent's elo, and those kind of stuff. And also, if possible, I don't know what the data would look like to see if the win rates of specific players change over time based on their elo. I think that would be quite interesting, because my hypothesis, but I would like to make sure that it's correct, is that I think that your win rate with Robin Hood will increase over time with your experience with the game, because I think there is a significant learning curve for Robin that you don't necessarily have for the Sheriff. But yeah, that's an interesting point, David. But yeah, KKDVAC, what do you think?
Yes, I more or less think as all of you. Really it's balanced the game, but it's true that Robin Hood it's a bit harder to control because it's more adaptive, as you say, with the what is the sheriff doing, if he's trying to control to more carriages, but in general it's well balanced, but sometimes, it's the balance is good, so the idea is the look sometimes can change, that it's very nice. And about the statistics, it's so yes, it's normal that at the start we all have better statistics at sheriff, as we say, because it's more intuitive to play. No, you just feel to just, if you feel that, take the carriages and try to pick people to the jail. But when you start playing more, perhaps you think it's not necessary jail a lot of merry-men, because it's better try to control the territory, or well, depending as you want to play, but well, it's a learning curve.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. There is a comment here that I think I also somewhat agree with, from 60 Kilo Hack, saying that the balance can also swap depending on the events, and that's the thing. Like some stuff are going to happen during the game that you cannot predict, and that's the whole idea. And sometimes it can be quite a big game changer. And I was wondering, do you have for you some events that you really feel like, oh, those, when they come in at the right time, they're really big game changers?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so I was wondering, do you have any specific events in mind? I can see you nodding a lot, David. Do you think about a specific event?
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember the title, but there's one on the sheriff's side. I'm the one that's confiscate even if submissive. That one.
Oh yeah, the tax collectors.
Yeah, I almost just, like, when I'm revolving hood, I almost always just block that event regardless. And then on the other side, the ones that let you rob, those one that teleports everybody over and robs, and there's one that you can rob. I think those are the
ambush, I think, is the
yeah, the ambush one. The ambush one can be yeah. Oh, the oak tree. Yeah, I don't know the oak tree if it's if it's
oak
that
tree isn't an
decisive.
immediate effect. I mean, it's nice to have. It's a free base in the woods, and like some additional maneuverability for Robin Hood, but I don't think it's a game changer.
It's a good event, but not especially changed the game. But it's very good. But
for me, the oak tree, I will take it in the late game only if I want that point. But the oak tree, I would not take the oak tree over plots and deeds if it's not the first ballot, because if it's in the first ballot, it's great. You're gonna generate the income twice for it, and you have this added maneuverability. But I'm not sure it's such a game changer, but it has a big long-term impact. What do you think, Divac? I think you like the oak tree.
Yeah, oak tree, it's interesting, as you say at the start, for the special action of can travel to the other provinces.
Yeah.
And but it's like other events that you give 1 point, that they are all very good. In general, all point it's always good, but well, you go in pick point or other pick point. So I think it's a normal event, well balanced, especially good for Robin, of course, but in the sheriff side is good too. But in the sheriff side really is very useful. It's more Robin, of course.
But let's talk about factions now. So let's start by the obvious one. So we're going to start with the sheriff. So if I'm looking at the stats at the sheriff, so what I'm looking at is the difference between what all players do and how specifically winners tend to do more of or less of. And if I'm looking at the sheriff, they tend to hire slightly more than the rest of the other players, they patrol slightly less. Capture is more or less the same. And then if I look at the deeds, they ride more, they confiscate more, and they disperse the same. So you could say that it looks like, yeah, you need to ride and confiscate and maybe recruit as much, a bit more. But I don't know, what are your thoughts on what do you think are like good tips for people when they start to understand what is important about the sheriff and how to win with them? And I'm going to keep this like club-based order. So Daniel, what are your thoughts about how to be a good sheriff, or an efficient one? Not good, but
so I don't. I mean, putting this into sort of simple terms, a lot of this would focus on the early game, because like once things start happening, the sort of actions best optimal play diverges a lot, but early on, you need to get people on the board. Neither player starts with enough dudes on the map. So you're going to be hiring for your first full action. I would say hire and confiscate, provided you can lock down a woods and or willing to risk it on a trap carriage. But yeah, essentially hiring and confiscating early. Followed by locking down woods, followed by just continuing to confiscate hiring and confiscating whenever possible. I mean, that's sort of my game plan. You want to keep the carriages moving. I have played against people who did very little confiscating and still won. I think I played an early game against David, where I think he might have confiscated once in the entire game and he still won. So it's possible to win without confiscating, but it is better. I mean, it's just generally better to have because that's your money and that's your win condition. So
yeah, that's really interesting, because for me, in my mind, as the designer, is that as you say, Daniel, when you're the sheriff, you need to keep those carriages moving, and you don't really care about unrest up until you can maybe set yourself up to have a series of hire just before the ballot comes in. But you want to have those carriages coming in, because this is
Or if you end a ballad and you're in control, you have a large amount of control, you have a decent amount of money, you don't necessarily and the favor is more towards order, is like well towards order. You can kind of sit back and just sort of stamp out. But at that point, you've basically already won. It's pretty tough for Robin Hood to come back from something like that, from like a really dominant ballad that's not quite a win for the sheriff. But I do think, it's pretty straightforward. Ride is good for setting up. Setting up pre inspection, like auto flips. It's good for getting control of certain key locations, particularly the center. You want to control the center. I forget the name of any of the parishes, but the middle, you want to keep control of that. It's good to keep control of the parish immediately adjacent to the other woods.
And maybe to follow up on this, and I would ask you the question, David, is the question of what you should do with the woods. I tend to think that it's good to have one wood that is secured, because both roads are like, your carriages are going to go from one of either from Southwold Forest or from Sherwood Forest. And I mean, this is your lifeline. You cannot really afford to have your carriages going through the woods in a risky position. So do you think it's important to control one of them, to control two of them? If so, which one? Do you have any opinions on the politics of the woods?
I don't go for as a primary objective. For me, it's when I patrol. All right, if I go there to capture, get rid of a camp, or if I need to go there to protect carriage, that's when I'll make sure. But I don't go like, okay, let me protect the woods and then I'll confiscate. For me, it's more like turn to turn, just being flexible. And then in general, for me, let's say as a sheriff, I explain to people as you want to confiscate early in the ballot, and then you want to get back to 5 submissive parishes by the end. and sometimes getting back to 5 can be really hard. And 5 is key because that's the swing of 1 order versus 1 justice. But that's kind of the flow. And sometimes if you're really rich or if really good events come up, you can just avoid not confiscating and just capture. But for me, that's the general flow. And then 2, I have some more things in my strategy article, but something I've noticed since then, I've noticed some newer sheriffs do is they spend too much money. They run out of money, and then you have really low flexibility. So actually what I'd say is it's okay to, when you do hire, just hire Nottingham and don't hire anywhere else. It's also okay to, when you confiscate, just confiscate 1 place, don't confiscate 2, right? Sometimes that might be the right move to do. You don't always want to do the action fully because you might run out of money as a result.
Yeah, and it always depends also on, I guess, also the Robin Hood's position. I think it's always risky to confiscate a lot, even if it's early in the ballot, if your Robin Hood in front of you has a lot of resources, because those places in which you confiscate, you're opening up for recruits and turncoat. So when you're in front of a rich Robin Hood, it might be worth it just to have like a specific parish that you're getting carriages from that you secure. So I think that's a really good. I think it's a really good tip. And for you, KKDVAC, what are the, like, do you think that the top things that people need to know when they are playing the sheriff?
Okay, I like to play him in 2 ways, no? Confiscating a lot of carriages, but I play more comfortably. Just try to keep the territory, but I think because I think the point of the 5 territories, it's one of the most important, but it's one of them. It's of my kind of play, because I see a lot of series that play very, very good, picking a lot of carriages, well played, moving them very good, and with very, very good results. But I feel more comfortable just trying to don't feel comfortable Robin Hood. Try to don't let him uses his special actions.
Yeah.
Trying to have my people positioned in all the map. Trying to don't let move good Robin Hood, or if he move, he revealed, not hidden. I like more playing this style, but the important is just to also don't let Robin Hood pick points.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point that both of you raised, that this 5 submissive parishes are important, not necessarily because you're making a ton of points, but mostly because you're preventing Robin's best source of justice points. So that makes a lot of sense. And actually,
don't let Robin rough free. If you can use disturb him, always not just Robin, Almer Rimen, no?
Yeah. And do you chase Robin Hood? That's the question I have, because I had some thoughts when I was designing the game, and I was wondering, as a sheriff, do you have any concern about where Robin Hood is, and are you trying to specifically chase him, or you're only taking the Robin Hood piece if an opportunity arises, but you don't worry about it? So what's your approach to this? I don't know if David, you seem like you were nodding a lot, so maybe you have some thoughts on this.
My first priority is early in the ballot, try to get a big capture with. I'll prioritize like capturing 4 Merrymen and a camp versus Robin Hood and a camp, and then later in the ballot, it's more like opportunity, like oftentimes the territorial control is more important than actually just chasing Robin Hood just for 1 BP.
Yeah,
I'm not going to chase Robin Hood very often unless an event comes up that lets me quickly move henchmen into that space. And on the point about like sort of getting a big capture, one thing I've found useful is, so obviously you start with 9. You start with 9 coins. You're going to have an opportunity to take 4 actions before getting any other money from other sources. 3 of those actions should, I think, be hires. Whether you do that in a single turn or across 2 is a bit a matter of taste. But one advantage of doing it across 2, doing a hire on your first turn and then a full hire plus confiscate on your second, but only doing 2 hires instead of 3 on your second, is that you can double hire into Nottingham, which gives you a total of, I want to say 10 henchmen in Nottingham at the end of turn 2, and you still have 2 resources to patrol, meaning you can contest either of the forests. And if Robin Hood goes for a full turn on turn 3, you will be doing it for first eligibility, which means you can, provided temporary truce doesn't show up and ruin your plans, which happens to me all the time, you can
sorry about that.
You can, that is the best, that's the best event for Robin Hood in my opinion, is temporary truce. I think it's like just by far the best. It's so good, but it's so terrible for the sheriff. The sheriff never wants to see it. Robin Hood almost always wants to see it. But yeah, so the that's what I found is like a sort of a good rhythm, good opening. I used to think that passing on the first turn was the best for sheriff, and I don't think it's bad because it gives you extra money and you can be more flexible, and then you just take a full 3 space higher on the second turn. But I do think that possibly hiring in Nottingham followed by a just 2 hire plus confiscate is perhaps better and is also perfectly serviceable.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, because it puts you in a really strong position to this is where it gets to the point where I realize that I'm really not a good player, is that now that you say this, I realize that having my single plot as hiring in Nottingham and then having my plots and deeds and redoing the hires make it so that I have such a strong position in Nottingham that I can spread with Ride or also take the forest and everything. I think it makes a lot of sense. And this idea of passing on card 1 is actually pretty good, because it's you could get 2 coins, because most of the time the Robin Hood player is going to play plots and deeds, and the income you get by passing is variable. So it does make a lot of sense. That's really interesting. But good transition. You were talking about temporary truce and how good it is for Robin Hood. Let's talk about Robin Hood. How do you become a good Robin Hood player? And I think this is maybe a bit more subtle. So let's start with you, Daniel. What do you think is
well, you shouldn't ask me, because as you know,
right. You suck as Robin Hood.
I'm really bad at Robin Hood. You said everyone in the top 10 has balanced in mine. I'm at 60% on Robin Hood, 85% on Sheriff. I'm very good at Sheriff, really bad at Robin Hood. I have sort of an extreme position on Robin Hood that I'm second guessing now that I know that I'm uniquely bad at him. But I think you should never, ever take the opening move, always take a full turn. And that's just mostly from my perspective as sheriff, that whenever Robin Hood takes the event, no matter what it is on the first turn, I'm just happy to see that, because I know I can take I can confiscate a turn early. I'm going to be just one turn ahead of my plan for this entire ballot. So that's my perhaps controversial opinion. Other than that, my opening is pretty standard. I drop 2 henchmen into the right forest.
2 merrymen.
Two merrymen into the right forest, 1 merryman into the left forest, and Robin Hood into the parish. I hire in all of them, 2 in left wood, 1 in right wood, so there's 3 in each forest, and then one with Robin Hood. This changes depending on the event. Sometimes I won't hire into the Robin Hood parish if there's the event that lets the sheriff yoink Robin Hood and whoever's with him out, and sometimes I'll change my hiring for some other reasons. But for the most part, provided the event isn't really bad, that's my opening. After that, I think Selwith's guide is going to be better, give you better guidance on how to play Robin Hood long term, but don't let the sheriff get a full turn on the first turn.
Yeah, definitely not. I think that's like the game is quite short, and I think you need to think about the action economy, and giving this to the sheriff, especially at the point where like the world is his oyster, like he has money, almost everything is submissive. I think that's a very risky move to let them have a full turn on round one.
And the other sort of good rule of thumb is you're going to get reset to first eligible at the start of the next valid. So it's usually good to set yourself up to take a full turn at the end of the ballot as well. So whatever, like if that means taking two turns in sort of less than full turns, even when you could. Two turns with a single action, what is it? Deed, plot, single plot. Just to get the rhythm right, so that you're ending on a full turn. That's my sort of.
Yeah, makes sense. And so for you, David, what's your vision for Robin Hood?
Yeah, and first heavy +1 on plots and deeds on first for Robin Hood. At some point I went through all the events and I found only 2 or 3 that I would want to take for the first turn as Robin Hood. So definitely plots and deeds. But my vision there is, and I noticed this in my stats ever since the start, I inspire a lot more than average player. So for me, it's all about inspiring. I make sure that I can inspire in a safe place. And by that, I mean, I inspire and don't inspire if the sheriff can just patrol in with a single plot and then capture you, right? So I try to set it up such that it's I have a safe spot to inspire, and I just inspire all day, because inspire is VP that can never be taken away. You know, territorial control and camps, you spend them out, they all get captured eventually. So they're all like temporary VPs that I use to avert like a insta win. Like sometimes second ballot, I might lose if I don't put out 3 camps. So that's kind of my spurt to stave off instant win. But yeah, inspire.
Just maybe to build on the inspire thing, which because I didn't say anything about the stats, and there is a significant difference between average players and winning players with Robin Hood with the inspire action. Like it's I think you have like a 40% difference between the two. Like it's really significant. Like the players who win with Robin Hood on average, they inspire a lot more than the average player. And I think this is something that is often lost. And as you say, David, it's a really good point. It's like a victory point that cannot be taken away. And I think it makes a lot of sense. This action is really decisive. And I think it's often overlooked. But you were saying that there were a few events that would make you reconsider potentially giving the sheriff a full turn on round 1. What would be those events that you think you have to take as Robin Hood?
Definitely weapons of the week, the one that removes a submissive marker.
Yeah.
But the way like the game setup, there's a setup I can do that allows me to take an event, and there's a setup I do that doesn't let me take an event. I usually end up doing the latter because there's only 2 or 3 events that I would take. So even if weapons of the week does show up, I probably end up taking plots and deeds anyway, because I set my initial setup to be plots and deeds focused. Right? If you take an event without setting up for it, you sheriff will single plot into that forest and clean out your camp immediately. So
I do think as like a balance, something I would like to see tried is letting Robin Hood set up after seeing the first event. I think that would be I think that would probably push it closer to 50-50 would be my guess. I don't think it would necessarily push it over 50-50 for Robin Hood, but I think that's something I've wanted to try. And obviously, because I don't play the game physically ever, I haven't had a chance to.
I'd agree, and the balance is very fragile. So even tiny things like that, like just could really like get it. Yeah, I think the balance is like very, very fragile. It's actually a tiny bit could swing it a huge way. So
yeah, quite a bit. I think so too. And you, KKD, so what do you think about Robin Hood? What do you think are the critical things to do to have a winning strategy?
Yeah, I'm like like Selwith. I like the inspire action. It's the more powerful, and just try. Sometimes I forgot, unless I feel I can rob the carriage. I try to forget the carriages. Just eso, as he say, try to inspire where you don't be catched. Try to control territories, or where the sheriff pick the carriage, go pick people there. Or do well. Yes, the idea is took all the points as you can with events. Don't fear a lot of being jail in general, and in the first tours don't. It depends, but as they say before, don't the camps. I like to place more in the end of the game, just to the last push to pick the points necessary to finish. If I think with the point of the territories, 1 more plus 3 camps, I can win in Ballad 2. I pick all the fight in the old. Boom.
And I think you raised a good point about the camps, because I think it's something that I took from my experience as a coin player, is that usually I will try to place the camps as late as possible in a ballad, and just maybe set myself up for having a good set of recruits where I'm going to spam camps in a one go. I won't do it gradually because I want to put the sheriff in a position almost within, like, I'm trying to set myself up, and then boom, I go for the camps. And if it's just before the ballad, I know that I'm going to be able to reshuffle things and protect them. So it's fine if I have a camp that it's on its own. So I was wondering, how do you approach this way of building camps on your side when you play Robin Hood?
What's another? Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, David. It's fine. Yeah.
Oh, no, so yeah, I mean, +1 to what you said, because yeah, it's harder to react to, and that's what I meant by do it late, spam out 3 camps so you can stave off an instant win, or you can go for your own instant win. And by instant win, I mean the 5-0 win in the second ballot. Yep.
And there is a good question here from Aaron Chapa, and I think that's something that comes up for some players, especially when you're beginning, when you can get in a position like this. I've seen it quite a few times, even in playtest, where you have the sheriff surrounding all of the forest space with 3 henchmen each, and then they just bring in the carriages. And the question is, once you're in a situation like this, can you do anything to come back from it? My first thing that I would say is you probably shouldn't be in a situation like this. If you let that happen, you probably made a mistake. But then again, I would be curious to hear your thoughts on is this a problem, and what are the different things that can help you get out of it. So I don't know if any of you have ideas. I don't know, David. I think you're the strongest, maybe Robin Hood players. So maybe you have some thoughts on this one.
So when they are when they're confiscating, right, they end the action on the confiscate. It's submissive, so that means you can immediately recruit there or go in there and break the loop, right? So just equal the number of henchmen there, and then they have to break the loop to bring more guys in and flip it back to submissive and all that. So the moment they confiscate, it's submissive. That's your opening to go hit that spot instead of the forest. I mean, once the sheriff takes a forest, it's gone until the next ballot. So you got to hit the parishes, revolting parishes instead.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Yeah.
And the trick there is just making sure that you have the money to do that when it happens. So knowing when to rob, seeing your opportunities, know when you can rob without giving a ton of tempo to the sheriff. And that, I think, is probably, honestly, I mean, it's the part that I still struggle with playing Robin Hood. So maybe David and KK Devac can comment more on sort of how they understand, like, this is now the time to rob. This is how many, if I'm going to do a rob as a lim op or as a full turn, et cetera, et cetera.
I think it's a good point, Daniel. Knowing how to rob is important because it's the only RNG in the game. So you have to think about what is a good time and how much risk you're willing to take. So we'd be curious also to hear your thoughts, KK Divac and David, on what you think is an optimal approach to robbing as Robin Hood.
I mean, my rule of thumb is if the sheriff let you rob it, my opinion is that the sheriff can always control which ones let you rob. So if you get the opening to rob one, it's almost always a trap. So generally,
no, but I mean just not just carriages, but like
Yep.
The overall
your
when to
economy.
rob. Yeah.
Like what's your like do you prefer to rob as a limb plot or as a full turn? Do you want to
I always make so it's definitely never end up with 0 shillings. So I try to rob before it gets there. And in terms of a big rob or several small robs, kind of depends. But I mean, for me, it's just make sure that if you have 0 shillings, you're very limited in what you can do. If you have 1, it's very big. 2, up to 4 shillings, there's like a diminishing returns, and then beyond 4, it doesn't really matter. But I try to rob when to get myself in the definitely more than 0, and if I can get to 4 or more, reserve, even better.
But you think 4 is the good number for you to in terms of resources for Robin?
4, I can do a full plot and deeds with like 3 recruits, and then still have 1 left over for the next turn.
Yeah.
So, yeah, 4, and beyond 4, it's a little just okay. I'm doing really great, and I can donate.
Do you always beat up the monks? That's the question. Like that's I think I need to know as a designer, what's your approach to handling the monks when you encounter them? Do you always beat them up, or do you sometimes don't take the risk?
So I'm again bad at Robin Hood, but I never rob when it would be a risk to beat up the monks.
Oh yeah, that's actually a good rule.
So if you should be robbing with 2 or more unless you're desperate in a forest or a revolting parish. So at that point, if you have 2 and like 2 net strength, you beat them up without a risk.
Yeah.
I always beat up monks unless I'm at 8 shillings or more or something, where it's like, okay, I really don't need the money. But I try to pray that, okay, the victim's thing is not going to come to haunt me.
And do you think about the victims, or it's just something that might happen and you don't worry too much about it? KKD, like, what's your opinion on keeping track of victims?
Keeping a lot of victims, you say?
Yeah. Are you careful when you play Robin? Are you paying attention a lot about your number of victims, or you don't care? You focus mostly on the economy.
I think it depends, but in general, I use it to be careful, yes, to try not to be a lot, but it depends. Sometimes if I have luck and I can make a noble victim, I go more aggressive just for the Fortuna event, just for try not the Fortuna event, but in general, always I victimize, vamos. If I can pick the victim, I pick the victim. And some situation, of course, just try not pick any unnecessary risk, but if can, of course, victimize.
And I have another question looking at the stats. So there are 2 things that are significant, and that's the use of Inspire for winning players. The other one is the use of Turncoat. No one does it a lot, but I can see that the player who tend to win tend to do a lot more Turncoat than the players who don't. So what's your approach to Turncoat? Because, I mean, we were talking about breaking the loop and like the question that Aaron was bringing, and I feel like recruiting and Turncoat can be a great way to breaking that loop. So I was wondering, what's your approach to using Turncoat? Maybe Daniel. Yeah, go ahead.
What is Turncoat? What is that?
Turncoat is when you pay for making one henchman a merryman.
Okay.
I mean, so I'll use it when it allows me to sort of, once I'm into a space, if like and it basically allows me to prevent a hire flipping it to submissive. That's sort of my main focus with turncoat is, can I bring it to effectively uncontrolled, speaking in coin terms. Sometimes also if it will sort of limit the capacity of the sheriff to capture in a location, I'll consider it. Those are my main considerations when deciding if I'm going to turncoat.
Makes sense.
So like bringing it from 4 to 3, for example, in a revolting parish, now they can only capture 1, or bringing it to so that they can't hire.
My quick add-on, turncoat, good for breaking a loop, good for making sure they stay revolting. It's pretty straightforward action. To me, the interesting part is I often have the decision, do I inspire or turncoat? They often come up as a set, and that's where the interesting decision is. Like, do I need a point or do I need the control?
Yeah, that's a good point to put those two in tension, actually. Yeah. And you, KKDVAC, so what's your approach on turncoding?
Yeah, they say more or less the same. I don't know if they say, but for understand you, another possible good uses for prevent to capture more merrymen, no? If they are 4 or 6, if you give 3 in impart 3, or you perhaps you can save Robin Hood, and you don't mean if they capture or something of that, like that. But well, it's so useful, as they say, to control territory and complicate the sheriff in general. I think it's very good to as they say, after inspire is the second best option of this.
Yeah, I agree, and I think to your point and Daniel's point, I think because when you're in a revolting parish, you need 2 henchmen to capture a merryman. You want to make this for the sheriff. You want to make it an odd number and not an even one, just to be extra annoying. So I think it makes a lot of sense. But I think we covered it. Just as a curiosity, do you feel like, if I'm thinking about the learning curve, that it was a bit harder to figure out how to play a good Robin Hood, and what was the moment where you finally, the thing that you understood and made you become a good Robin Hood? I'm not asking Daniel because he's still really bad at Robin Hood. No, but seriously, Daniel, is there a moment where, when you were discovering the game, is there a moment when you understood something and realized, well, this is the thing that is important for me to become better at playing that
I think the challenge with Robin Hood is that there isn't, unlike the sheriff, it's a lot of reactive play. It's a lot of sort of taking opportunities as they arise. But I think there have been a lot of moments where I felt like, oh, this is something I haven't seen before, and it's like this is clearly the way to be approaching this. But yeah, no, I think I'm still getting there. I think learning how to balance sort of combination of contesting the space in terms of like sort of spreading out as needed while still maintaining your economy. For example, also baiting the sheriff. That's something that I've been getting better at, I think, in terms of providing, and this is also related to spreading out. You basically want, as Robin Hood, to create as many problems for the sheriff, and then they have to decide and spend resources on fixing those problems. And if you can sort of create more problems than they're able to fix, you're going to sort of slowly shift towards winning. That's something that I've seen anyway.
Yeah, I think that it's a great way to look at it, like create enough problems for the sheriff that they cannot fix all of it. I think
because like if you realize, okay, they could capture me here, or I'm setting up a base that's unprotected and they could come in and capture it. Sure, they could. Is that better than what the other thing they want to do? Is that gonna like advance their game plan more than hiring where they are now, for example? So those are things like you don't necessarily, it's not like necessarily a bad move to open yourself up to a hire if you're not losing that many points and if you have enough resources to bounce back, or not setting yourself up for a capture. So it's that's something you need to sort of understand. It's not just a question of like, can the sheriff roll back my gains here, but is in the process of them rolling back my gains, is that going to advance their game plan?
And it goes back about this thing about thinking about the action economy and the number of actions that you're going to make the sheriff spend to resolve a situation that is not necessarily giving them points. What do you think about this, David?
Oh, sorry. I had two aha moments. I didn't quite catch.
No, sorry. The original question was, in your process of learning Robin Hood, was there a moment where you felt, oh, this is when you started understanding how to play that faction well?
Yeah, so when I was new, two aha moments for me. One was, a big henchman force comes to me, and I was like, oh, wow, I can't kill them. I can just turncoat this. It's like, what would I do with this? I had this perception because you start with a cab. That was my base. I was too in love with it. Once I started realizing that these are temporary VPs, it's so easy to bring up 3 new ones. Then it was a lot. It improved my play a lot. Don't think of your cabs as like you must protect them. Just think of it as you distract, make a big army cub, and then you spread up new camps elsewhere. They're all temporary VPs. That's my first aha moment. The second one was I had a really I had a play early on where I lost almost all my merrymen at the start of the ballad, and then I just played cat and mouse all game. And when I only had like 2 or 3 merrymen, it kind of forced me to like, okay, there's only one move I can do that won't let me die. So that actually got me to do like, okay, inspire. Like if I inspire here, then that really focused to me when I only had like 2 or 3 merrymen as I was so. But I don't recommend learning that way. But for me, it's because I only had 2 or 3 merrymen and I had to figure out what to do with them. That's where I came upon like, okay, just keep inspiring where it's safe. And then that was the second seminal moment in my education.
Makes sense. It's good that you have a bad experience that actually makes you learn something. I think it's always a
there's only one there's just one option to not lose everybody, so I just took that option every time.
Yeah, that's good. And you, KK, what was in your process of learning Robin Hood the moment the moment where you started figuring out how to win with the faction?
Perhaps when I understand that how to defend him and don't, as I say before, don't be very concentrated in the carriages. Be more. We try to more disperse in all the map. Trying to, as they say before, when I see that sheriff, they can fuck you, but not in all the place. You can assume some losses if you may get more winnings. The sheriff have to decide sometimes complicated decision where he can. Well, when I see that making a bit my play, not only trying to dance with the sheriff, just try what I want to get. Okay, you do your carriaje, do you what you want, but I will go for what I want. If you, I'm not trying to stop you. I want you to try to stop me.
Yeah, and I think that connects with what Daniel and David was saying about like baiting the sheriff in doing stuff and just creating enough problem for the sheriff to force them to react. Before I have my last questions to you guys, I want to thank all of you for taking the time to talk about all this. There is just one quick question from Aaron Chapa here, and that question is for me. And I would say yes, you can keep track of the number of cards that are in the draw deck, so you can figure out how many cards are left before you're going to have your next ballot. And actually, if you play on BGA, you have that indicator that tells you, was there a fortune event that went through the ballot already, or is the future event the fortune event pending, and how many cards are left in the ballot? So that's completely open information, and that's actually I didn't want players to be rewarded by counting cards. Like I don't think it's really interesting. I would like to reward interesting play more than the ability to remember how many cards have been played. So that's not something that I wanted to have in the game. So you can always, that's open information. You can always check. Okay. So one last thing that I would like to ask each of you, and that's maybe a bit of a hard question to answer, but the game has been out for a year now. It has played, so to my surprise, because I mean, like for a game published by a GMT, we usually don't reach a very wide audience. And when I look at the stats on BGA, I see that we are at more than 6,000 plays for the game. There is quite a good amount of 6,000 players. It's actually, we're getting to 14,000 games played, which sounds massive for me, honestly, if I'm being honest. Usually when you publish a war game or a historical game, you tend to think that maybe only 20% of the boxes that you're going to sell are actually going to be played, because war gamers are hoarders and they buy a lot of games, and a big part of their collection is actually unplayed games. So it's really exciting for me to see this. And I was wondering, when a game is played a lot like this, I have this incentive to keep the game alive and producing new content to keep things exciting for people. And my developer Joe Dewhurst and I have been talking about this, about what can we do to make the game keep on living. And I was interested to ask players who I think at this point I have played more than I did. So the game, what kind of stuff would you like to see coming up that would reignite your interest in the game? I would be curious to hear your thoughts. So maybe we can start with you, Daniel.
So I thought about this a lot early on when I was playing. I think there are a couple of ways that could go. I think additional events, just to shake up the event deck a little bit, would be interesting to see. But something that I'd really like to see, just because from a narrative perspective, with sort of, for a game about Robin Hood, this game has quite a bit of open information, and that makes sense given its lineage. Coin historically was full open information. This has a little bit of hidden information in terms of where Robin Hood is, but in practice, because you are constantly, if you're playing well, you're constantly inspiring, the sheriff will always know where Robin Hood is. So that's not really like a hidden thing. And something that I think would be kind of cool to see is a variant on the pivotal event system used in some other coin games, where like a faction can play an event that sort of replaces the event in play and takes precedent over it and does something specific. And usually they tend to be very sort of conditional, so you have to kind of build up towards them. But something that I would like to see with Gest is a pivotal event system where you basically select one or two from a set at the beginning of the game, and each side keeps them hidden, and so they can play them at a certain point to sort of reveal, like, oh, this was my grand strategy, this was my plot, this is the big heist I'm pulling off, something like that, to sort of add a level of unexpected sort of like sort of a heist movie flavor to it, essentially, was my thought.
So I would say I didn't think about it, even though it is in Pendragon, as Tim was saying, but I never thought about this. I thought about other things, but I didn't think about this. And Daniel, I think I might take this idea because I think it's actually really a good idea, and I should have thought about it. So that's really good. Yeah, that's really, really good. Thanks for that. David, do you have any thoughts on things that could expand a bit the game?
I love Daniel's idea. I even have an idea for you. Just Robin Hood, a pivotal event I would love is something that freezes the carriages in place. Like we thought they were going to move, but nope, they stayed there, and I get to rob them. For me, actually, what I most like to see is right now I rob carriages. I don't rob carriages a lot, right? The downside is way too high. So if there's some way to make it so that there's more, robbing carriages, I think that's the best part of Robin Hood, when it's more like a heist movie, and the carriage is moving and you gotta plan out the right rob. I basically only rob when those two events come up. I basically only rob carriages when those two, carriage robbing events come up. Otherwise, often, just if it's a trap, and I know it's a trap, and if I fail a die roll, everybody gets captured. It's way too punitive for me.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point about the like giving control, some sort of control in the pivotal event to Robin Hood on the carriages. Just for you to know the kind of stuff that I was thinking. Obviously, having new fortune events and new regular events just to make things a bit more variable was the first thing that I was thinking about. Those pivotal events ideas are really great, and I think they match quite interestingly with something else that we've been thinking about, and that was giving other personas to each faction. And for example, you could have different kinds of sheriff and different kinds of robins, and actually you would put a tile on your board, and maybe one of your action would be slightly different, like especially the deeds actually, and making a deed slightly different. Like for example, the sheriff could confiscate in more parishes, but they would have to do a die roll to see if they succeed or not. So those kind of stuff. But I think the idea of the pivotal could be a great addition to that, because then the combinations of what your sheriff or what your Robin Hood can be could be like pretty big. Like if you have 3 pivotal and 3 personas, that's basically 9 options on top of the regular one. So that's super interesting. I love those all those ideas. I'm gonna take everything. that's
it reminds me of the red flag repairs thing, right? You have there's I really love the decision, like when in the game do I use it, or do I save it for its intended use early.
Okay, I'll take this in. Meandering Mike is saying the Disney version expansion. So honestly, if I grew up with this movie, if I could have made a Disney version of it, I would have been very happy. But unfortunately, that's not possible. I've never been a big fan of Men in Tights, even though I saw it when I was a teenager and I was dumb enough to enjoy it, but I thought it was too stupid. Sorry I think that Men in Tights is not funny. It's too much. And Kevin Costner, yeah, that's okay. But for me, it's the Disney version all the way, for sure. And UKK Divac, what would you like to see in the game for to keep it alive?
I could say the ideas you all say was fantastic. I don't really have any good idea. Perhaps more kind of another kind of tropes in general. I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's a good point actually. Another kind of troops.
Yeah, some another kind of merrymen or some special soldiers. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's actually an interesting thought, because there was also something that I was thinking about that connects to your point, Daniel, about the fact that there is maybe a bit too much information. I was thinking about having fake merrymen, where you actually, when you reveal them, they are blank, and that makes it so that the sheriff might actually invest in a parish that is actually empty, and I thought that could be also quite funny to have this. But to KK Divac's point, you could also have, when you reveal some merrymen, you have maybe some merrymen that are potentially even characters, like some one of them is actually Little John, for example, and Little John, they can do something specific. One of them is Maid Marian, and maybe she can do something specific. I think that's actually quite interesting.
I thought like something.
Yeah, and Debois agrees. We need a Maid Marian piece, but that could be actually maybe that could be, like, if there was one that I would prioritize, I think I would definitely prioritize Maid Marian. I think that would be the most interesting one to have. But yeah, thanks a lot for all of this. I'm just going to answer one last question from Manuel Esteban, asking, does the BGA plays influence any changes to come on the game? I don't think so. It did have a change, like it did force a change for us when we did the BGA implementation. And this one is, we actually realized that in the rules, we were making the use of events a bit too flexible for this specific game, compared to other con games where you can be very flexible with the way you use those events. But in a 2-player head-to-head, it can lead to specific weird situations. So we decided that when a player activates the event, they can only activate the event of their side. So BGA did influence this, but I think that's pretty much that's pretty much it. But when I would be looking at the statistics and stuff, it might have some impact also on the way I'm going to build the personas for a future expansion. For example, I want to use the feedbacks that I get from players, but also statistics to see, okay, are there things that I can do. But yeah, that was great. It was an awesome discussion, and you even gave me ideas to do an expansion and get more money for this game. So that's really awesome. I appreciate it. I will all send you a small check when I get my royalties. But it was really awesome to have you all on. I really appreciate you taking the time, sharing your tips and tricks. To the risk of having a lower elo in the next couple of months, but yeah, and when we start having some elements for a cohesive expansion, I would be happy to reach out to you guys and have your thoughts and having you test it and see how you feel about it, because like that's the kind of insight that would be super helpful. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching. If you want to support the show, you can like this video. That's the first thing you can do. You should subscribe. I think I have 50% of viewers who are not subscribed to the channel, and that's honestly a disgrace. I'm really pissed off at all of you. And if you want to have some fun discussions with other fans of historical games, you can donate on Ko-fi. That would be good to support the channel, but you will get also access to the Discord server where you have a bit more than 200 weirdos talking about historical games all day and sharing their design work and a lot of fun stuff. So you should definitely join the server. So thanks everyone. Have a great evening and see you soon. And